Abducted by an unknown person, woman was pleading for help while trying everything to save herself from the cruelty of her kidnapper. Repeatedly, she uttered the word please, but all to no avail. What followed on goes beyond all boundaries of the most twisted human imagination. Tied up with duct tape in the kidnapper's house, she was repeatedly sexually assaulted and beaten. However, a glimmer of hope appears with an anonymous call that notices her in the abductor's car. But 911 doesn't take the call seriously, and all trace of her is lost. This is a sad story of a woman who, despite her tireless efforts to save her life, saw her fate sealed by both the inefficiency of the 911 dispatchers and the cruelty of her abductor. Join us as we explore all the twisted details of the vicious case of Denise Lee. Born on August 6, 1986, Denise Amber Lee was a happily married stay-at-home mom, married to a man named Nathan. It all began during their senior year of high school. Denise was a math whiz, the kind of student who could solve equations in her sleep. She proudly wore the label of a bookworm, often seen with her nose buried in thick volumes of literature. On the other hand, there was Nathan, a charismatic football jock who thrived in the company of friends and had a knack for cracking jokes that could make anyone burst into laughter. Nathan saw Denise at the school and was immediately interested in her. These two seemingly different souls quickly found themselves drawn to each other and soon decided to tie the knot. Marriage brought its own set of joys and responsibilities for Denise and Nathan, and along with it, two adorable little boys who would fill their lives with boundless love and endless laughter.
We just felt blessed every day that we got to wake up with each other and knew that we had two beautiful kids, and looking forward to watching them grow up.
However, life was not all sunshine and rainbows for the Lees. Nathan took on not one, not two, but 3 jobs to support his family. They had to count every penny, but it didn't matter to Denise and Nathan. They were not chasing the luxuries of life. All they wanted was to provide a loving home for their children and grow old together.
Our life was great. We weren't making millions of dollars or anything, but we were happy.
For Denise and Nathan, Valentine's Day was not just a date on the calendar, it was a symbol of their love. On their very first Valentine's Day together, Nathan decided to surprise Denise with a special gift. He presented her with a heart-shaped ring that will later on be used as the main evidence in the crime case. And then came January 17, 2008, a shocking day that would forever change their lives. On this seemingly normal day, Denise was taking care of 2 children, 2-year-old Noah and 6-month-old Adam, while Nathan was at work. At precisely 11:09 a.m. that day, Nathan called Denise, and they talked a bit about the weather. As Denise told him that the house had a smell, Nathan suggested opening her windows, which will later be found to be one of her worst decisions ever made. Around 4 hours later, Nate called again to let her know he was coming home, but Denise didn't pick up the phone. Worried about this, he called her 8 more times while driving to their home. As he got to the house, he noticed the windows were closed, much to his shock. When he got in the house, he noticed that both of their children were in the same crib, which was very strange to him. As he observed the house, he came to the conclusion that someone got in the house through windows and abducted Denise. Immediately, he contacted 911 and told them about the situation. As Denise's father was a police detective, Rick Goff, the second call was to him. In the next second, police dogs were all over the neighborhood, and a helicopter was instantly brought to check the area. All neighbors were asked if they have seen anything wrong, and strangely enough, someone reported seeing a green Chevy Camaro pulling up to Denise's house at around 2 p.m. 10 minutes later, car was nowhere to be seen. Hour after police came to Lee's house, second call was placed to 911. It was none other than Denise herself.
911. Hello?
Denise managed to call 911 secretly, but she had to be very careful and say subtle guidelines to the dispatcher to not get caught in the act.
Please let me go. Please let me go. I want to see my family again.
In the whole phone call, Denise used the word please exactly 17 times, illustrating her despair. She was constantly trying to convince the kidnapper to let her go. She wanted so badly to see her children again, but all pleads were ineffective. After the kidnapper noticed that his phone was gone, the line abruptly went dead. So did the hope of finding Denise. In the shocking turn of events, police were trying to trace the phone, but to no avail. However, they were able to find the person that phone belonged to. It was Michael Lee King. Michael King was an unemployed middle-aged man that lived close to Lee's. He was recently divorced in a marriage where he had a 12-year-old daughter. After kidnapping Denise from her house, Michael brought her to his place, tied her up to the chair with the duct tape, and took advantage of her multiple times. After some time, King put her in the car and drove to his cousin, Harold Muxlow's home, where he asked for some help. He mentioned that his lawnmower had become lodged in the front yard, and he required assistance in obtaining several tools, a shovel, a gas can, and a flashlight. He even came inside the house and talked to his cousin calmly, as if nothing was wrong. Afterward, they proceeded to the trailer housing the tools, and Muxlow, in turn, handed over the requested items. On his way back to his house, Muxlow heard a female voice urging him to dial the police. Muxlow yelled to his cousin, "What the fuck are you doing?" And King said, "Nothing, don't worry about it." Muxlow believed it to be a boyfriend-girlfriend matter, but curiosity prevailed, leading him to pivot and approach the car. As he came closer to the car, he could see a figure in the center of the back seat. He saw his cousin pushing her way down, after which he drove away. Following Michael's hasty departure, Harold retreated indoors to his home and recounted to his 17-year-old daughter, Sabrina, the unsettling sight he had recently observed. At precisely 6:23 p.m., she initiated the third call to the police, during which she provided them with her father's cousin's address, reporting the alleged kidnapping of a woman.
And the girl came out of got out of the car, and my dad's cousin went and put her back in the car. And when she got out,
where would he be going with this female?
he came over to my dad's house, borrowed a shovel, a gas tank, and something else.
7 minutes later, the fourth call was placed to 911 by Jane Kowalski, a concerned citizen. On the other end of the line, Jane urgently conveyed to the operator the unsettling scene she had just witnessed. At a traffic light, a man in a Camaro had pulled up beside her, and his actions had her deeply troubled. With one hand, he was pressing something down in the back seat, all the while steering with the other. What sent shivers down Jane's spine was the eerie sound she heard, the unmistakable cries of a child emanating from within the vehicle. To add to the chilling tableau, a tiny hand desperately pounded against the back passenger side window. In Jane's eyes, there was no room for doubt. She firmly believed that she was an eyewitness to a horrifying child abduction in progress. After the light turned green, King took an abrupt turn, leaving Jane unable to read license plate. Due to the leads and information they had gathered, police officers arrived at Michael King's residence on Sardinia Avenue, just past 7 p.m. Inside, there was no one to be found, but a television blared in the front room, assaulting the silence with its high volume. Simultaneously, a clock radio in the master bedroom was blaring music at an ear-piercing level. On the kitchen counter lay a roll of silver duct tape, hinting at a rather unusual presence. Venturing further into the bedroom, the scene became even more intriguing. 2 blankets, one of which featured a whimsical Winnie the Pooh design, lay scattered along with some disheveled pillows on the floor. A yellow blanket concealed the window, as if guarding some hidden secret. A mirror, seemingly detached from its original location on the dining room wall, rested on the bedroom floor, leaning against the wall in a rather haphazard manner. In a quiet corner of the room, a hairband was discovered, stipulated to be of the same type worn by Denise Lee, adding a layer of mystery to the unfolding tableau. Nearby, there was a bundle of silver duct tape, wadded up and peculiarly adorned with what appeared to be light brown hairs. The pieces of this puzzling narrative were falling into place, each detail hinting at a story yet to be unveiled. At 9:15 p.m., Michael's green Camaro caught the attention of a patrol officer, leading to a swift traffic stop. As the officer's gaze penetrated the vehicle's interior, a startling discovery emerged. A muddy shovel lay there in the back seat, the very same spot where Denise had been bound just hours before. Michael, drenched from his waist down to his feet, exhibited shoes shrouded in mud. On the back seat lay a solitary ring, same ring that Denise's husband gave her for Valentine's Day, and was a sign of their love. In his pocket, the officer unearthed the phone previously employed by Denise to dial 911, its SIM card and battery conspicuously missing. The consequence was swift and decisive. Michael's immediate arrest and subsequent confinement in custody. Just 5 miles from where Jane Kowalski had dialed 911 on January 19th, they discovered Denise's lifeless form, her bare body interred in a shallow, muddy field, a bullet having pierced her skull. Unclothed and curled up tightly, she lay on her left side. But still, there was no sign of the gun that was deadly for Denise. The very next day, Jane Kowalski laid her eyes upon Michael's photograph while watching the news. Instantly, she recognized him as the man who had been behind the wheel of that unmistakable green Camaro. Without hesitation, she picked up the phone, dialed the authorities, and introduced herself as one of the individuals who had called 911 regarding Denise's kidnapping. Jane inquired if they required any additional information or if there was any way she could lend a helping hand. To her astonishment, the authorities remained oblivious to her identity. As it turned out, Jane's initial 911 call had never made its way to the deputies' desks. The operator who had answered her call asserted that she had indeed urgently relayed the request to dispatch officers to the call's location. However, the 2 dispatchers responsible for the mishandling of the call offered up excuses, blaming the chaos of a shift change and a frenzied work environment for their oversight. If the call had been reported, there's a high probability that Denise's life would have been saved. Subsequently, both of them found themselves facing a suspension without pay as a consequence of their actions. A day or two after the body's discovery, while conducting a line search through the brush with metal detectors, they stumbled upon a solitary 9mm shell casing nestled in the grass. In another vicinity close by, specifically near the intersection of Plantation Boulevard, later, they found comprising a shirt with a broken strap, a bra lacking part of its strap, men's boxer shorts, and women's underwear. Additionally, a piece of white material was spotted entangled on a tree limb. The shirt has belonged to Denise. In his statement to the authorities, Michael claimed that he and Denise had been kidnapped and blindfolded simultaneously, denying any involvement in the incident.
I told you that. I couldn't. I tried to put 911 on the phone and everything.
Multiple witnesses, such as Jane Kowalski and his cousin Harold, testified against him during the proceedings. Seeing the bug picture, evidence against him was stacked up. Even Denise's DNA has been found in both his home and his car. His defense attorneys presented the argument that he had experienced a traumatic sledding accident during his childhood, resulting in brain damage, and pointed out that his IQ measured only 71. There was also another man, Robert Salvador, who was also treated like a suspect. Since the gun that killed Denise was not found, and the gun that Salvador possessed matched the bullet that was found at the scene of the crime, the defense defended itself and requested a detailed examination of Mr. Salvador. Salvador told to the jury that he met with the king on the day that Denise was abducted at the firing range. Upon the request of law enforcement, Salvador handed over 4 guns he had used at the firing range that day, with one of them being a 9mm. However, since Salvador had a strong alibi that day and was seen on security cameras in his store at the time of the crime, police had no other choice but to let him go. The jury was also presented with Denise's distressing 911 call, yet it was the evidence she herself had placed that, in the end, sealed Michael's fate. Several strands of her hair, ripped from the roots, were discovered beneath the rear passenger seat. Nestled amidst the backseat cushions lay her heart-shaped ring, the very one Nathan had gifted her on their inaugural Valentine's Day, a token she had never removed from her finger. The symbol of their true love became the crucial evidence in Denise's case. Knowing that she did absolutely everything in her power to save her life, Denise made sure that the monster would be brought to the light of the justice. With overwhelming evidence, Michael King was charged with first-degree murder, sexual battery, and kidnapping. At the end of the trial, he still pleaded not guilty. December 4, 2009 saw Michael King being found guilty on all counts, leading to his sentencing to death. 6 years later, in 2016, an appeal was filed, albeit his sentence remained intact. As we speak, Michael King resides within the confines of the Union Correctional Institution in Florida, with an execution date still awaiting scheduling. After the tragic murder of his wife, Nathan sprang into action, founding the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. Its mission? To reduce human errors in 911 call centers by advocating for enhanced training and procedures for all emergency call takers. Even though his wife's life was failed to be saved by police, he made sure to not let that happen ever again. This legislative gem mandated a comprehensive 232-hour training program for all emergency call takers. In 2012, Nathan even initiated a lawsuit against the Charlotte County 911 Department, ultimately securing a settlement amounting to $1.2 million. While the void left by Denise's loss remains immeasurable, Nathan discovers a measure of solace in the countenances of their two sons. They bear traces of Denise within them, he reflects. And for me, that stands as the most comforting thought imaginable.
I am terrified of the day that I'm going to have to tell my kids what happened.